Yeah, welcome back to DBN this morning, and of course it's time for us to get into some serious business here. We have Tokumbo Debumi join us on DBN this morning, and we're looking at the SMEs as as catalysts for economic growth, of course, in Nigeria, with a focus on how to position your brand in the right market. So it's good to have you on the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
It will be interesting to first off start on what does it mean to position your brand in the right market?
I think for me, we all understand that SME or SME organizations, as you call them, are the heart and soul of the economy because they bring competition and innovation, to the table. And I see that we need maybe not a lot of infrastructure, but basically we have what you can call the basics for a regular company to thrive. Then you also now look at how you support them in ensuring that they're able to bring out their business to the marketplace and they have the wherewithal to be able to make some living out of it. So really positioning your brand, I would say that it's all about understanding who you're targeting and also being able to use what we have that's quite in abundance in our disposal at the moment, which is the social media, to be able to push your brand into the open, very cost effectively, almost costing you nothing if you know how to take it. So really positioning your brand is also to look at the new trends nowadays. We were sharing before we came on set that consumers are getting immune to traditional advertising. So you got to look at things that will actually engage their senses, things that will create a lovely experience around the brand. And it's not a lot. I know that when we talk about brands or when we talk about products, everyone is thinking about a big large corporation.
Exactly.
But it doesn't necessarily.
So what are the basics? You just mentioned it. What are the basics that every SME individual should look out for?
Well, the basics will probably be, yes, we have support. They're able to to access finance. They're able to, manage their businesses, which is basically providing them, enough support in terms of education, in terms of providing the information they really require, and having a platform they can actually latch onto that will give them that boost to be able to take off very well. So we can look at it, in plain words, like, yes, I start a business. He's basically looking at a situation where you say that a youth copper wanting a job and is not able to get it because you don't have experience. But then again, you can't get experience if you don't get a job. But what you also look at, is basically, doing internship. So you need to take a look inwards. Quite a couple of people have taken on, because look, my experience doing business lately in Nigeria is about a lot of people turn up with very fantastic CVs, but they can't live up to what is written in the CV. So the best thing to do is to bring them on board, and get them to get down to work. So if we come to business, what you've asked me is basically for you to look inwards and say that, look, I have very little to play with. Who am I targeting? Who is my target audience? And quite honestly, I just believe that, go after, what you can call the low-hanging mangoes that you easily can grasp, and go for that. I've given a whole lot of young people, advice on, why don't you look at doing internship with organizations, and I'm sure every organization you go to, they probably will give you money for transport and the rest of it. But basically it's about you coming down to basics. Now that we know that we lack, infrastructure in Nigeria to be able to support SME.
You mentioned the Facebook. Is the social media platform one of the basic platforms that any of these people should consider?
Oh, definitely. The social media is there for us to use. I think I only just got onto Facebook for business reasons, just about, I think about a year now. And I've come to realize, all this while I've not been on it, that look, I could have been using it for this and that, though I had my reasons for not going on it.
But people of your class and age that have gone through a various stage of business actually look at the Facebook like a child's play, just like you're like, it's resonating to you now that you ought to have explored this before now.
Yes.
Let's further educate other people that could actually take this as an advantage.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, look, I think in those early stages of internet, I think I was probably the first black organization to have internet in the UK, quite honestly. So that's the paradox of it. You know, I got onto it quite early, but at the same time, when I work publicly, and when I retire to my private life, I like to have my peace and my quiet. But then again, you can always manage that, which I found out in the last 1 year I've been on Facebook. Yeah, there will be times you get on with some topics on Facebook that would get you open to a whole lot of a whole lot of obviously criticisms. I mean, there's nothing wrong in that, but at the same time, you can use that platform. For instance, I've used it for a couple of stuff, and in fact, I just used it a couple of few days ago, where someone is in Jamaica and we're able to do 1 or 2 businesses out there in Jamaica, and I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Okay, let's look at the fact that you have economic downturn in Nigeria presently, with a whole lot people seeking for bailout and the rest. Is it still, would you say it's credible for us to see position as Africa's largest market?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you can't run away from that. 150 million people, that's our biggest strength, not even oil. I mean, look, the other day I was having a chat with some young guys somewhere. We sat down there and I was being offered a meal, and they thought the best impressive meal they could give me was chicken and chips. And I was impressed, by the way. And I didn't have the chips, I had chicken. But then again, I was thinking that, look, while we have more yam in Nigeria than chips. I mean, most of our produce, I would even say,
made into chips.
It can be made, but though it's a little bit dry, but we can find solutions around it. You can mash it up and make it into yam balls. We can promote it, and that's what I'm talking about, the infrastructure we need. We need, a proper government structure that would reposition the things we have. I mean, we have ogi, that I love ogi. And ogi, you still have to go and get it fresh, put water on it, put it in your fridge and make it. But what's the difference between ogi and custard? So those are some of the infrastructure that we say we actually need. We need government to be very serious about it rather than paying lip service to it. We need our banks to be financial institutions and not entrepreneurs like me.
Are you saying in essence that the private sector is doing their bit by coming up with these innovations and how to best position this particular product and services, but the atmosphere that ought to be created by the government is what is missing?
You've captured it. I don't have to say any more to what you've said. I mean, the other day I went to Oriental and there was no parking space anywhere, and the only parking space you had was a very raised curb like this, that stuff, and they will put it there so that you can get on it, and they would charge you there and then. You don't go and come back and pay them.
That's innovation.
That's entrepreneurial spirit, and that's innovation. There's this particular story that you go to an Igbo guy's shop and ask him, and I'm not patronizing any ethnic group, but you ask him that you want Great-Axe, and he will say, Great-Axe, I have it. He will run around asking everybody. By the time he's not able to get any answer, he comes back to you that, what did you call it again? The guy has tried that. Look, this guy is not going anywhere until I get that Great-Axe, and there's nothing like Great-Axe, by the way. So we have it in us. We have it. I think it's inborn in us that, look, look, my children, my first son is out of uni now, but in his first year, I know my children, I told them that, look, okay, you're doing film and television, which is great. You can easily employ yourself. And he started making money in the second year in uni. But the other two, one is doing mechanical, another one is doing some science related stuff. I said, you have to adopt, another career on the side that you can make money. And so these are some of the things that you always will find in us, that is an abundance, that yes, we're we're a nation of traders, we're a nation of entrepreneurs, and all we just realize is, that enabling environment and that platform, that we can actually work and develop on.
It will be interesting to go further into how to now position better. You were able to say something about coming out of the NYSC, and you're like, no, you don't have basic experience for any of this particular the job description that we want. Now I'm thinking of what the NYSC has been able to establish. You have the skill acquisition unit of it, and you have a lot of entrepreneurial training going on day after day from that particular angle. Do you think that's a better way to further drive the skill that is desired in the society?
I might not be able to comment on that because of the fact that I really want to see the content of that scheme that you're talking about, because quite a whole lot of schemes that are put together by government is probably put together by some guy or some civil servant sitting in an office and rolling out a whole lot of undoable ideas. And the idea is for people to be able to, quite honestly, I would develop an internship program which is what the youth corpers are doing. But you must be serious about it, because if I'm going to retain you at work, you must demonstrate some form of responsibility. So I will look at internship for some of them. In the UK you'll find my son in his first year is already doing internship with an engineering firm, and so over that time they'll be able to position him that, look, we want you, and another nephew of mine also. So internship is something that we must develop very well. Youth couples, when they arrive at you to work, they always see it as a compulsory thing, but it must be seen as a culture, not as a priority. So we see it as a culture that, yes, I'm going out there and I'm going to be serving in this organization, then at the same time this organization might just be able to retain me. And we've done one or two in the last 7 years since I've set up my business here in Nigeria.
Let's look at promotion in terms an SME having to want to promote his or her product. How does one get to know the right channel? At what point in time do you get to know that this is time for me to promote this product? And how do you know the right kind of people that will want to buy into such a product?
I think most people, I would say that if you're going into business, you probably would have done a whole lot of research into, getting
feasibility
into
study.
Yes. That's the first thing to do. You first must realize, or at least know, that you have a market out there. Then getting your product out there, it's probably the holiday part of it, but the most important aspect of it is for you to know that, yes, this service that I am providing, look, we came up with a concept of a photo booth, and what we're doing with it is basically, it was actually created for a particular segment, which is, let's say, wedding and socials and the rest of it, obviously knowing that Nigerians will spend quite a lot of money and time on parties and the rest of it. But what we also now did was to now adapt it for corporate organizations who are looking for new ideas. So the idea for you is basically, and there's no better place to actually run a business than in Nigeria, where we're still at that infancy, that a whole lot of ideas are out there. I give these ideas openly everywhere. So you always will find out that you can set out to do business in Nigeria, but the spin-offs are even what will make you the money. So coming back to your question, I think it's about you understanding the market you're going into. You don't want to produce a product and now start looking for customers. Obviously, you're not heading into it in the right direction. So my take on it is that you first must understand if there's a need for that product, if there's a need for that service. And once that is understood, then you now need to convince your target audience,
What if you have explored all other
promotional strategies,
all other promotional strategies, and these things don't fall in place like expected? Is it wise to outsource?
I have a feeling you're speaking from experience. Okay. Well, the idea on it is that look, if a business doesn't work, it's a lot easier to backtrack and count your losses and just move on. But then again, it depends on what you look at. For instance, they'll always will say that you run a business for 3 years, you must be ready to run it for 3 years and be at it. I mean, when I started my business in the UK, I actually started with a mobile kitchen, which it's like a square, stuff like that, and it's got wheels on it. So I'll put it on the back of my car and drive, let's say, I used to live in North London, I'd drive it to Elephant and Castle, and the distance is like going from Lekki here to Yaba. And I did that for 365 days and for 3 years. So you have to be at it, come rain or shine, because it's a mobile shop. I wanted people to know that yes, we'll be there come rain or shine. I didn't take any holiday for the 3 years. Now, it doesn't have to be that daunting, to be quite honest with you, but I'm just that kind of a person. I'm a bit of a workaholic and I just get buried in what I'm doing. So the idea for you is, after all said and done, you've done your homework, you've looked at it. It's not all businesses that will go well, quite honestly. Nobody will tell you that every business will go well. But if you run a business for 3 years and you've been able to develop a culture and develop some good level of communication to your target audience, it will start to peak. Okay. Probably in the third year you might be lucky, you'll be earlier. So if you keep, but you don't keep throwing good money at bad, at bad rubbish, as they say. So if it's not working, and it might not necessarily be that your product is not good, maybe it's as a result of competition, maybe it's as a result of new technological innovation that has affected your
what do I do
business.
if I find myself in that area where the competition is just too high for me?
Retrace your steps and look at something else. But I normally would not give up on it, because I will also look at a niche area where I can provide the service that competition won't be able to come down to. Because at the end of the day, you run your company. Obviously you can only pay if you make good enough money. So if you're not able to pay your staff, then it means you probably will have to do 3 times. You have to work 3 times harder to ensure that, yes, and quite honestly, labor is affordable here compared to the UK. The reason I use the UK every time is that it's a much more developed economy, and everything you do will be based on calculations that, okay, this guy's done 2 hours, I've got to pay him 2 hours.
Well, thank you for establishing this particular point here. We'll have Tokumbo or Debumi join us on DBN this morning, and it has been an introspect on the SMEs as catalysts for economic growth, and we're focusing on how to position your brand. Well, we'll go for a break now, but don't forget you can join the conversation on the social media. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/DBN Television, and on Twitter is at DBN Television using the hashtag DBN This Morning. Do join us again.